Hello, Miss Jen. Hello, Dr. Lapinto. Hello, Marcus. Hello, Miss Shelley. Hello, Mr. Sweeney. Hello, Mr. Landrum. Nice to see you guys. Happy Thursday. Happy almost Valentine's Day. Very excited for today's session. This is a writer downer one, guys. Pen and paper or some type of note taking device. Highly recommend. I
Happy
have a
almost
feeling.
birthday.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I don't know how I feel about this one. I'm turning 40 tomorrow. Uh, yeah,
Could be worse. I'm turning 50.
you look great. I think we both look great. That's what matters, right? You are
Thanks.
a baby. Thank you, ma'am. All right, guys, we're gonna give it about 60 more seconds, 90 more seconds. This is probably one of my favorite topics. Really excited to walk you through this. And really like no holds barred in what I put together. And hopefully you're gonna pick up what I'm putting down. Thank you, Mr. Wilkerson. Good morning, Ms. McClung. No worries, Mr. DeMille. We'd love to see your face, but if you're driving or you're naked or your camera's not working, no big deal. And thank you for that, Miss Shelley. I posted this quote, I want to say like in November of last year, that says there are decades where nothing happens, and then there are weeks where it feels like decades happen. And that's kind of what 2025 has felt like for me. But it's all good. Good morning, Sensei Pedro. Yes, 2025. It's just been a whirlwind so far. Lots of moving parts. Okay. I've got a lot to cover today. As always, at the end of the day, we will send the replay as well as the slides over for you. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen on this, and we're going to get this party started. And just bear with me. We still got people popping in. Get my chat set up for you guys. Okay. Here we go. All right. I always like kicking it off this way because if you've been on my training, you know there's engagement. I want to get you in the chat. So give me one word. How are you feeling? One word. I'll kick it off. I'm feeling pumped for this. I've been waiting to unleash this for you guys. Great, ready, good. Keep them coming. And I always like to kick these off with some questions because it allows me to really just kind of get a gauge of where everybody is. So question number one, how many of you have ever kept somebody on your team that you knew you needed to let go, but because of the thought of like having to train their replacement was just too much, you just decided to keep them on the team? I know I can't be the only one, right? Okay. Yes, I have here. Okay. Um, Next question. How many of you have just decided to do something yourself because the thought of showing someone else or delegating it to someone else just felt like it wasn't worth it? It's like, I can do this thing in 2 minutes. It's going to take me 12 minutes to show them how to do it. So I'm just going to do it instead. And then you repeat that cycle over and over and over again. And then eventually those, 2-minute tasks end up compounding. And it would have just been better if you would have delegated and taught somebody else, right? I know I've definitely done that in the past. And just how many of you have more processes you need to document in your business? I mean, does everybody have every single process documented in their, yeah, right? And, I always say in our business, people are never a box you just get to like check off and say, okay, I'm good with the people aspect of my business. Let me focus on sales or marketing, right? It's never a box you get to check off. And processes are never a box you get to check off, especially now with how quickly technology is evolving and all the platforms are constantly changing. It's always going to need to be updated. And I want to be very upfront about that. It's never just like, oh, all my processes are documented. I never need to change it, because I would hope your school is evolving. You're evolving as a leader. You're joining, coaching programs and masterminds, and you're learning new things to implement, which means your processes are going to change. Okay. So for those of you that said yes to any of these, you're in the right place. And my mission is to show you a new framework that we implemented in Gracie Pack as well as GrowPro that helped us document all of our frontline processes. And we did over 290 days. And what this ultimately helped us do was streamline onboarding. I think one of the big fears when we bring people on, it's like, oh, I'm not organized. I don't have anything ready to go. How am I going to train them? So it helps you onboard new hires much faster so that they are producing for you more quickly. And it ensures that you will never feel held hostage, because that's what it kind of feels like by a team member when you don't have your processes in place, and just in general, by your business. Okay. So we're going to talk about the 4 parts of a perfect playbook, 5 steps to implement it. So I'm going to show you exactly how we implemented it. And then I'm going to talk about the difference between just having playbooks, and just so everybody's aware, when I say playbook, I mean SOP, standard operating procedure. I just think playbook sounds cooler. And like people understand just due to sports, like what a playbook is. But there's a difference between having playbooks and then having the ability to utilize them. And I'm going to talk to you about what a lot of schools have done in the past with like creating operations manuals, because I'm one of them. And you want to have a playbook system that is easy to use, right? It's not just something that is stuck in a drawer that's collecting dust. And then we're going to talk about how you can leverage AI to build your playbook. So for those of you that don't know me, Chris Rodriguez, I founded Gracie Pack MMA, BJJ, and MMA Academy in 2012. And I run GrowPro Agency, digital marketing agency that specializes in the martial arts industry. I'm also a consultant for Maya, the Martial Arts Industry Association. I'm a coach for 7-Figure Agency. I'm also a landlord, which is sometimes like a job in itself. And I have been officially accepted by EOS, the Entrepreneurial Operating System, to start my journey of becoming an EOS implementer. And the reason why I share that is because there's a lot going on here. I sold my school, so that's kind of off the plate. I still consult the new owner, and I still go over there and stuff. But one of the reasons why I feel like I have the capacity to take this stuff on is because we have playbooks in place. And I don't feel like if I lose somebody, I'm going to be held hostage in my business. Okay. So I started Gracie Pack MMA in 2012. This was one of our like end of the year parties here. And I started in a 1,000 square foot subleased facility. So it was inside of a gym. And you think back and it's like, oh, those were the good old days, right? So 1,000 square feet. And a lot of what I'm going to be teaching you today is what I learned through scaling Gracie Pack as well as GrowPro, because I now have 39 team members here at GrowPro. And this is all in-person team members as well. And paying 39 people, they better have work to do. And the only way they're going to know what work that needs to get done is to have the playbooks in place. And back in 2014, I took a very calculated leap of faith, and I moved from this 1,000 square foot facility to a 12,000 square foot facility. It was overkill. There were 17 trash cans that had to go out at the end of every single night. And I went from paying like $1,200 all in on expenses, all in. That's not just rent. It's like all in, because I didn't have to buy cleaning supplies or toilet paper. I didn't have to pay for internet. I didn't have to pay for utilities, because I was subleasing into this monstrosity of a building that eventually had over $30,000 a month in expenses. And it was a really big kind of leap of faith that I took, because I wanted to go all in on after school and summer camp. And that's another story for another day. But what ultimately happened is I knew if I was going to scale after school, summer camp, evening programs. I mean, we launched a yoga program. We launched a kids CrossFit program, MMA programs, BJJ, kickboxing, women's only fitness kickboxing. I had to expand our services and our team to be able to pay for that building. And my brother from another mother, Matt Arroyo, recommended for me to read this book, Traction. And it's written by Gino Wickman. And really, it's the basis of EOS, the Entrepreneurial Operating System. If you've heard me, or maybe you've heard of the term EOS before in the past, can you drop EOS in the chat just so I know who's familiar with EOS? All right, quite a few of you. So when I read this book, I went all in on self-implementing EOS. And we started with the core values and the core focus and the organizational chart, which EOS called an accountability chart. But we also went all in on the processes because I knew that if I wanted to build after school summer camp, like I had to have all of that documented in order for the team to know how to do their job. So this is like the actual revenue that we did. So in 2014, we were in that 1,000 square foot facility. We were at about 210,000 in revenue. I read the book Traction, and then the next year we jumped up to almost 350,000 in a year. And I honestly attribute it a lot to what I learned in that book and to getting my systems and processes in place. And then a year later, we went from 350 to 520. So we saw this just kind of enormous growth year after year. And I don't believe that would have been possible if we didn't have our processes in place. Okay. So when I read the book Traction, because I was self-implementing, and that just basically means like you're reading the book and you're trying to implement it yourself, and you're going on YouTube and you're searching the internet to, try to find resources. But big part of the book was getting, in terms of processes, everything out of your head and down on paper. So after I read the book, I spent 9 months, 9 very, very long months. And I sat down and I thought about every single aspect of our business, from our core values and core focus to the benefits of our programs to, our curriculum and testing and graduations and private lessons and how we generated leads and what our enrollment procedures looked like. And at the time I was using Rainmaker. So we had a section in there on everything that you would need to know if you were using Rainmaker as a CRM. And we had all of our human resources in there. And this was 119 pages, right? And honestly, this was a labor of love. It was a very, very long process, but it felt so good to get it out of my head and down on paper somewhere. And we printed it out and we put it in a 3-ring binder. And I had a lot of school owners ask me about this process. So I ended up putting out this course called the Black Belt in Business Blueprint back in 2017. And I walked school owners through how to create their very own systems manual. And this course it's still available today. I think Century Martial Arts still sells it. And there's still people that are purchasing. And I do believe it is a really great process for getting everything out of your head and down on paper. But the issue is this 3-ring binder, you guys know what happened to it? It ended up just getting put in a drawer and starting to collect dust because there wasn't a utilization aspect to it. And also, we're like working on computers now, right? 2017, like most schools are utilizing softwares in order to run their business. But this was still really great because it got everything out of our head and down on paper. And you start at white belt and you go through all of the belts, and it allows you to build your complete systems manual, right? But again, that utilization aspect was missing, right? At least everything was out of the head and written down on paper. And what I think also happens for a lot of school owners, like maybe you have some checklists and, you do have some processes written down, but they're not really organized in a fashion where people can actually utilize them. Maybe some of them are on your computer. Some of them are on the school's computer. Some of them are in your email. Some of them are in a drive, like a Google Drive somewhere. And there's just a lot of lack of organization. Okay. So I want to tell you this quick story because this is really the power that playbooks have. So in December of 2020, I was in Miami and I was speaking on an association engagement roundtable. And here's me right here. I'm crouched over because I was in an extreme amount of pain. It was awful, and so bad that the second I stepped off of this quote unquote stage, I called an Uber to get a ride straight to the hospital. And in the hospital, ended up finding out that my body was basically turning toxic. I had a cyst on my ovary that was causing the excruciating pain. And I ended up getting admitted, and they said, you can't go home. You need to have like emergency surgery here down in Miami. So here I am, Wednesday, December 9th, 2020. And I don't know if you guys are familiar with what is on my screen here, but the very next day, which was Thursday, this is the Facebook ads manager. And I was in the hospital bed eating this not good hospital food, having to launch Facebook ads for Maya, the Martial Arts Industry Association, because we had a big virtual event coming up. Now, at the time in GrowPro, we had tons of playbooks for our team to launch ads for their clients, but this was one of my responsibilities to launch ads for Maya, and I never created a playbook or a process for it. So here I am, literally stuck in the hospital, excruciating pain, launching Facebook ads to make sure that this event we were putting on, wouldn't fail. So I ended up the very next day having surgery on the 11th. I drove home from Tampa. My wife drove me home from Tampa on Monday. Tuesday, I worked from home, but Wednesday, I was back in the office because we were just hiring our 5th team member, and I didn't have any of our like human resources or onboarding. None of that was documented. So here I am, like days after having surgery, having to go into the office. At the time, we were in a co-working space that was on the 2nd floor. I was in so much pain, I couldn't even walk up the stairs. So I had to do, her name was Christina, and I had to do her onboarding in the conference room downstairs because I couldn't even make it up the stairs. And then literally 2 days later on the 17th, I taught this 8-hour live event with the Maya team called the 2021 Academy Intensive Live, which it was a huge success, I am glad to say. But do you understand how trapped I felt, like how I felt held hostage by my business? Because even needing to have like a life-threatening surgery, I was unable to relinquish control because nobody else could do it because I hadn't documented it. And I know it's kind of an extreme example, but you never know when you're going to have a health scare. You never know when somebody in your family is going to have a health scare. And I don't ever want you to feel like you're held hostage. And this is why it's so important to get these playbooks done. I don't want you to feel trapped. And really, playbooks, I look at them as an insurance policy, okay? So that was in December. As you can see, January 2021, I started going all in building out our processes for GrowPro. And we started with the number one role that we hired for, and then we did the next role, and the next role, and then the next role. And we really went all in on getting this done because I never wanted to feel that way. So one of my favorite quotes says, there's guesswork, there's hard work, and then there are frameworks. And what I'm going to share with you today is the playbook framework. And I learned this through building that black belt in business blueprint, spending a lot of time with one of my mentors, Dan Martell. And then also, I've had an opportunity to train with a gentleman called Chris Ronzio. Chris is the founder of a company called Trainual. And Trainual is a software that allows you to document your systems and processes. If you're a CMA school, you probably have access to their Trainual because they build out all their SOPs. And Trainual, I think, is great, but I'm going to talk to you about why I decided not to go that route, okay? So I'm curious, how are you currently documenting your playbooks, your processes in your school? Like, where are you doing that? Is it in a Word document? Is it in a Google Drive? Is it a Google Doc? Maybe it's paper, right? For sure. Okay, we've got Notion. I love Notion. Notion's really cool. Lots of Google Drives. Slack, okay, Word document. Okay, so kind of lots of different answers here, right? So if let me ask this. Could your business operate without you? And I want you to give me either one of these three words. I see a lot of you are like, nope, 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 but we'll just wait. If the business would crumble by the end of the year, okay, let's say you had to step out, something happens, and the business would crumble by the end of the year, then I want you to type cookie. If the business would kind of slowly sink for the next year, but if you're not there, like it's ultimately going to sink, I want you to put ship. And then if your team would like never need you again, you're out on the beach living your best life, put beach. So let me know cookie, ship, or beach. All right. See a lot of ships. It's a couple cookies. All right. Awesome. Appreciate the honesty and the vulnerability, guys. It's important to know where we're at, right? And hopefully that inspires you and motivates you to move forward with this. So I think we all know why we need to do it, but a playbook, an SOP is just used to guarantee a predictable result with a predictable process in a particular department in your school. Okay. It really helps to take the thinking out of it. I think it's the ultimate insurance policy, and it's also great for making an exit. I will tell you, when I made the decision to sell Gracie Pack so I could focus on GrowPro, I thought that was going to be like over a year-long process. And I actually found a buyer within 2 weeks, and the deal was done in almost 6 weeks. So one of the reasons why I think it was such a no-brainer for the guy to buy my school is all of the playbooks were given to him. That was part of the asset sale when he purchased my school. Literally every single process in a Google Drive, so that he didn't really, because I think there's a fear when you purchase a business that maybe the employees would leave. And I had a program director that had been with me for 6 years, instructors that had been with me for 4 or 5 years. I'm sure he had a fear that, maybe they don't want to be under my leadership and they might quit. But it was an easier decision for him to make because he had all the playbooks. They were literally written down, every single position, every single department on how to run a business. So if you're ever wanting to exit out of your company, you can get a higher multiple because it's worth more to the person that is purchasing it. Okay. So before we dive into the nitty gritty, I want to talk about these 3 different things. You should have an employee handbook, right? If you have employees, you should have an employee handbook. I don't believe you have any business writing it. These are like policies to protect the company and you. And this is something that Paychex, which is the worst HR company, do not use them. But Paychex actually wrote ours. You can have a lawyer write it, but you should have an employee handbook. That's not what we're talking about today, okay? We're going to be talking about the actual playbooks. But once you have the playbooks, the question comes, okay, Chris, well, what do I do with them? And that's where the new hire onboarding comes into place. Okay, so just kind of want to be clear about these 3 separate, pieces of the puzzle. So there are 5 principles of a playbook. Number 1, you do not write the way until there is a right way. So I fell into this trap. This was maybe about 2 years ago. We use Slack, and we wanted to create a shift coverage channel. So if somebody's out, they post, they're going to be out, and who's responsible for their work when they're out. We hadn't used it though. So I said, all right, guys, we're going to do this new shift coverage channel, and I'm going to write the playbook, and then I'm going to give you guys the playbook. But the problem was it wasn't tested. So you want to make sure you're testing your systems before you actually document and delegate it. So you got to do it first, because maybe the way you wrote the playbook isn't actually the way that it needs to be done. It's just in theory. So you got to put it in practice first. So you do it, you document it, and then you delegate it. Okay. Second principle is that these are living, breathing, and evolving documents, especially for us in GrowPro. Every single quarter, updating playbooks is one of our rocks, because technology, and now with AI, things are changing so quickly. All right. And especially like maybe you're going to Maya's All Systems Go event in, March. If you're going to Maya's All Systems Go, put ASG. Let me know in the chat if I will see you there in Orlando. All right, there we go. Awesome. Looking forward to seeing you guys. Cool. So maybe you go to Maya's All Systems Go and you do a training and you're like, oh, I really like that. And I want to update my sales process, or I want to update my follow-up process. Guess what you're going to have to go update? The playbook. So these are living, breathing, evolving documents. Okay. Again, never a box you just get to check off. The other thing, owners, in order to grow, you got to let go. You can't do it all. You shouldn't do it all. I didn't start my business because I said I want to do every little thing in the business. So a lot of this is your ability to let go and also give other people an opportunity to learn through the process. You're so good at these processes because you've done them thousands of times. And the first time you hand it off to somebody, they're not going to be perfect at it. They've got to get their reps in. But you're going to feel much more confident to delegate it out if they have a resource that they can use, okay? The other thing to remember is our systems are nuanced. I'm going to share with you the template that we use and how we use it, but maybe there are certain systems in your school that template doesn't make the most sense, and that's okay, all right? And then finally, understanding that there's a difference between just having these documented and actually having a system of utilization. So why did I choose a Google Drive? Okay. I am not a fan of pay per user. Okay. I believe that I'm at some point, my company's going to have 100 employees, 200 employees. I don't want to have to use a software that charges me per user. And there are a lot of softwares out there that do. And that can get very, very expensive. And that was the main reason why I decided to not use Trainual, because we would have been spending $500, $600, $700 a month for our team to have access to that. The other thing is I'm always going to have a Google Drive. We'll always have a Google Drive. It's super user friendly. Most people know how to use a Google Drive if they have a Gmail email address. And it's simple. And what I have found is as companies grow and scale, complexity automatically happens. So try to keep your processes as simple as possible. Now, there are different settings that you can set in your Google Drive if you don't want team members to have edit access. I've gotten the question, well, Chris, what if somebody goes in there and deletes all of it? Well, we have saved all of our playbooks and we do this on a monthly basis. We have somebody on our team who is responsible for going in and downloading the drive to a hard drive. So if somebody did accidentally go in, or if somebody was malicious and deleted everything, we have it saved on an external hard drive. But you can make your settings so that it's view only and they can't edit it if you're worried about that. Okay. So there are 4 parts to the perfect playbook, and I love alliteration. So we're calling these the 4 C's, okay? At the top, you have the content table, and most playbooks don't have this. Most playbooks just have the name of the process at the top, and that's it. In my framework, you have your process name, and it's very important. Language matters, okay? Whatever the name of the process is, you have to decide as a company, this is what we are calling this process. Okay. Let's say your instructors on Monday do a check-in meeting. Do you call it a check-in meeting? Do you call it an instructor stand-up? What do you call it? Everybody has to be on the same page with the, how we're naming it. Then you're going to put the date it's created so you can keep track of, when was this system initially implemented? And then the frequency. How often does it happen? Is it daily? Is it weekly? Is it bi-weekly? And then you got to give it context. Context is so important. We need to let our people know, why are we doing this? What is the purpose of it? Over here, we have the owner, and that's the department that this lives in. So maybe it's your instructor department. Maybe it's your program director. Maybe it's HR. Maybe it's if you have a sales department or a marketing department. Typically, most martial arts school has a program director, front desk. You might call that off the mat team, and then an on the mat team. And then more than likely, you as the owner are sitting in finance and HR, right? So those would be some examples of the owner of the department. Now, these are going to get updated. So if you update them, you put the date that you update it, okay? Then how long should it take? Okay, I'm curious. How long should it take your team to clean the school every day? Put it in the chat. How long? $45 minutes, 25 minutes, 20 minutes. And obviously size is going to play a role into this, right? If you have a 10,000 square foot facility, different than a 1,000 square foot facility. All right, awesome. Well, you need to let them know what is the ideal time estimate, because if you're telling them it should take 30 minutes, but it's taking them 60 minutes, something isn't clicking. Okay, so you need to put the time estimate. How long should this approximately take? Okay, and then what tools are needed, right? If this process is about signing up or enrolling a new student, what would they need? Do they need the ABC flipbook? Do they need access to the CRM? Do they need, the merch that the student is getting? So what are all of the tools that they need in order to be successful with this? Okay, so that is the content table. All right. The next part of this is the camcorder method. And this is just a video recording. You can use Zoom if you are screen sharing something, if this is a process that has to be done on a computer. If this is a process that is done in the school, like cleaning the school, then you would record it with your phone. And I'll never forget when I reached out to my program director and we walked through this whole process, and I said, okay, you need to make a playbook on opening and closing the school. And I said, you need to film it. And she's like, so you want me to film like putting the key in the hole and turning on the AC and turning on all the lights? And I said, yes, because we have like 12 different lights in our school. Which ones are supposed to be on when you're opening? What's the thermostat supposed to be set to? So literally walking through the school with the camera and filming it. And then that video just goes in the Google Drive and we insert the video link here. I personally, for anything that's screen record, like to use a platform called Loom, Loom. It's a freemium tool, meaning you can film a certain amount of videos for free. And then it has a very, very low, I think it's maybe $150 for the entire year. I think it's definitely worth it if you're going all in on the playbooks. Kabir says, I legit did this a few months back, filmed it, had a mic, narrate anything, and then, yep, and we're going to talk about how to do this a lot faster with ChatGPT. Why Loom? Because Loom has a transcript feature, which we're going to talk about here in a second, that will help you with busting these out, okay? So that's the camcorder method. You got the content table and the camcorder method. And honestly, if you just do these two, AI can handle everything else for you. The next step is the course documentation. And this is the step by step by step by step. This is every little detail. Okay, it's the bullet points, the sub-bullet points, the sub-bullet points. I should be able to read this and do the entire process without having to ask you a question. Okay, so that's the course documentation. And then finally, we have the checklist. And that is just, how do I know that this is complete? And all the checklist is we're taking the high bullet point levels, the main bullet point levels, and we're putting them into a question format. Now, the beautiful aspect about this playbook is that regardless if somebody is just getting started or if somebody's been on the team for a while, there's a piece of the playbook that they can use. So if I'm onboarding a new hire and they're just getting started, they need to read through the content table and they need to watch the video. And then when it's their turn to do it, they're going to go through the step by step by step by step. And then once it's done, they can go through the checklist and ask themselves, okay, did I do this? Did I do this? Did I do this? Now, let's say it's somebody that's been on your team for a while and they maybe just haven't done this process in a while. Maybe like you do direct mail twice a year and they kind of remember how to do it, but they don't want to spend time watching the entire video. They can just go to the checklist because they've done this in the past and just ask themselves, okay, did I do this? Did I do this? Did I do this? And then did I do this? Okay. So how does the checklist differ from the course documentation? Could they be the same? The checklist isn't as beefy. So the checklist is going to be, you see, I have like step 1, step 2, step 3. And then inside of step 3, you have 3A, 3B, 3C, and then 3.1. These A, B, C, 3.1, these sub bullet points would not be part of the checklist, just the major step of the checklist. So to give an example, and I'm just going to use cleaning because I think it's just the easiest. Let's say, part of the cleaning is to clean the observation windows or mirrors. Okay. Well, I don't know if any of y'all ever seen teenagers try to clean mirrors before or windows, but they don't understand that they're not supposed to have streaks when they're done. I'll never forget my son Nate. First time we had him do this, he like crumpled up the paper towel and it was like this big, and he's going like this on the window as opposed to like using a big piece of a paper towel. And guys, you gotta tell him, right? So like the sub bullet points would be, how exactly you want it, that there's no streaks when it's done, that there isn't water, right? Because sometimes they scrape it and then all the Windex is on the floor. But then the checklist would just be, did you clean the mirrors? Okay, so that's the difference between course documentation and checklist. And yes, Windows Squeegee is awesome as well. Hopefully that answered your question. Okay. Awesome. So those are the 4 parts of the playbook. And I have a playbook on how to make a playbook because you need a playbook on how to make a playbook, right? It's pretty cool. And this is what it would look like when it's, completely done. All right. So, all right, Chris, that's a dope framework. Hopefully you're thinking that. Where do I start? Okay. Well, everybody let me know, how many team members do you have on your team? Put it in the chat. If it's just you, just put 1. But if you have, other team members, put them in. All right, there we go. All right. And obviously some of those are going to be part-time and some of those are going to be full-time. Okay. And to me, your full-time members or your full-time team members are the ones that really should be helping you with this. There are certain processes in your school, especially those of you that have like double-digit team members, that you probably haven't done in a really long time. And you might not actually be the best person to document the process anymore. So the first step to this is, I don't want you to have to be the only one to do it. Now, if you are a one-man or one-woman team, then that's just where you're at. I was there at one point and I had to do that as well. But if you do have help, you should leverage your help. Okay. So you got to get buy-in from the team, and you have to understand that everybody is tuned in to WIIFM. Jim Rohn, famous quote, "What's in it for me?" So if you go to your team and you present to them, hey, we've got to get these playbooks done. I need you to do these 5. I need you to do these 3. I need you to do these 2. They're going to be like, well, what's in it for me? Well, one, what's in it for you is that I don't have to micromanage you anymore, and you can just do your job and do it to the best of your ability. The other thing is when you're off on vacation, I don't have to bother you because all of the processes that you might handle are done. And whoever is stepping in and helping out has access to how that process is done, right? If your program director is out and somebody enrolls somebody into your CRM, I hope that person doesn't have to text them while they're on vacation like, hey, how do I add them into the CRM? I'm not sure how to do this, okay? So you get to go on vacation and nobody bothers you. It also allows you to be more autonomous in your role. It gets rid of bottlenecks. We don't want anybody on the team to be a bottleneck. And I'm not sure how I can promote somebody from one position to the next unless we have somebody else with the ability to come up underneath them. So the playbooks allow you to be easier to promote in our company. Okay. So when I did this was not, I walked into, a team meeting and said, all right, guys, all of us are going to do playbooks. I explained the importance of this. And I literally went through this list with them to get buy-in. Okay. Once you have buy-in, then with your team, you can go through these 5 steps of implementation. So step number 1 is we just did a brain dump. Okay. We do a all hands on deck meeting once a week. I think for martial arts schools, doing it at least once a month is something that should, something you should consider doing, where you have all of your team members together. Hopefully your full timers, you guys are getting together at least on a weekly basis just to do your, weekly meetings and going over KPIs and setting goals and, accountability. But we do an all hands on deck meeting. And what I asked is I just said, everybody get a pen and a paper, and I want you to do a brain dump of every single aspect of your job. And that can be really hard. It's like, well, where do you start? Well, our job descriptions, we break down our job descriptions with their key functions and responsibilities daily, weekly, monthly, and quarterly. So the best thing to ask is just like on a daily basis, walk through your day when you come into the school at 2 p.m. What do you do? Then at 2:30, what do you do? Then at 3, what do you do? And then what are the things you do on a weekly basis, right? What are the things you do on maybe a biweekly or a monthly basis? And we literally just had everybody that, you'd have your instructor team together, have your program director together. If you have like additional front desk help, they would be with the program director, but you just do a brain dump of everything that we do on a daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly basis. And if you have job descriptions, which for those of you that have these, multiple and double digit team numbers, you should have job descriptions. Okay. So you can look through the job description. You can look through your calendar and maybe use a Google Calendar for different tasks. So everybody on the team just sat down and we just did a brain dump on all of those different processes. Okay. Once you do that brain dump, you then kind of need to figure out, well, which ones do we want to prioritize, right? You're not going to be able to fill out every single playbook from that brain dump. And what I would choose are the ones that are done the most often, right? I mean, cleaning's got to be done every day. Lead follow-up, that's got to be done every day. Sales, that's got to be done every day, right? The things that we're doing the most often and the things that are also done by the most people. Maybe for you as a business owner, there's something that you specifically want to hand off. So maybe you just don't want to do it anymore, right? So that could be something you prioritize. And then also like thinking just of sense of urgency. Maybe you're having a retention issue right now. And what you want to focus on are maybe the top 3 retention strategies that your team should be implementing. And you focus on that, right? So you got to think about the prioritization, because when you do this brain dump, you're probably going to have 100, 150 different processes written down. And you're just going to get overwhelmed if you try to do all of them at once. And everybody's is going to be different. But again, I would recommend asking like, what is done most often? And, what are the things that we have a sense of urgency to make sure that these are done properly? Okay. After the brain dump, let me know, are you guys liking what I'm putting down? Is this making sense? Give me a yes or a no in the chat. Is this making sense so far with what we're doing? Love it. Thanks. Awesome. Okay, cool. All right. After the brain dump, we then go into assignments. Okay. So who is the best person to complete this playbook based on their skill set, experience, and current workload? And if you have one instructor and these processes are in the instructor role, then it's going to be the instructor. Same thing with the program director, but maybe you have multiple instructors. Maybe you also have front desk help. We need to just ask, and you ask the team, hey guys, who do you think's the best person to complete it? And you know what you're going to see? Leaders lead, and leaders go first. And I feel pretty confident that you're going to have somebody on your team that will raise their hand and say, I'll take that one. I think I'm the best person for it. And you just need one person to raise their hand, guys. That's it. And then others will follow suit. When we did this, some of the, team members had just a handful and some team members had more. My program director, Anna, like she had probably, I want to say 40 to 50 playbooks that she was responsible for. And she's a salaried worker. There are ways to incentivize your team as well. If you offer some form of performance bonus, you can tie this into their performance bonus. But some people will have less and some people will have more, and some playbooks are just going to be bigger than others. Okay. How do you document an instructor's job when the content of what they teach changes weekly? So the curriculum itself would be something separate. But I'm sure that, in our school, we follow an ABC schedule. A is curriculum day, B is theme day, C is specialty day. The curriculum days follow a specific format of, what we do for, the first 5 minutes of class and the next 5 minutes of class and the next 10 minutes of class, which is different than the B day, which is different than the C day. Okay. So once you have the assignments, then you got to set milestones because you have to inspect what you expect. All right. And one of the ways that I would really tie this in would be setting, hey, we are going to aim at getting X amount of playbooks done in X amount of time. That could be 30 days, that could be 60 days, that could be 90 days, okay? One of the things when you set a deadline of when something is due is that there has to be a QC process, a quality control process. So if you're having your program director do a playbook on how to enter a new student into your CRM, you're going to have to just walk through it to make sure it's accurate. So you want to build in that little bit of buffer time for the QC and audit process, okay? So I've talked a lot about time blocking in the past. I think every job in every industry, the team member should be provided a templated time block of this is the ideal day. This is what your ideal Monday looks like. This is what your ideal Tuesday looks like. And we do that for our program director and our instructor. Like they know, okay, Monday when I come in at 2 o'clock, this is what I'm doing. At 2:30, this is what I'm doing. At 3 o'clock, this is what I'm doing. Now, obviously, you can't know when the phone's going to ring or when you're going to get a walk-in. And it's not like we're just going to ignore the phone because the time block says I'm supposed to be responding to emails, right? The position can have some reactiveness in it, but the time block is just to get you back on track. So you could build this into their time blocks as well throughout the week when they're going to be working on project management, like building playbooks. The next step, and this was super helpful, was we created an accountability progress tracker, which was just a Google spreadsheet with each one of the playbooks, what department it was in, who it was assigned to, and then what is the status. So have they not started it? Is it in progress? Is QC needed? Has it been completed? And then when QC is needed, they just put the link over here. So whoever's going to QC it, which more than likely is going to be you just click on the link and now you can read through it. And once it's completed, you could put completed. So now you know, like, where is everybody at with completing their playbooks? And more than likely, you're going to have playbooks on your plate as well. And this will allow you to keep track with where you're at in those different playbooks as well. Okay. Then the last part of it is the drive organization. Okay. We use departmental folders, and we basically have the folders that the playbooks live in. But we also have this kind of open file area. And the very first one is how to navigate. So it's just I think it's maybe a 90-second video on how to navigate through the drive. So if you're a new hire, you go in and you watch that video and it's going to teach you like where everything is. Then we have the playbook template. So anytime somebody goes to create a new playbook, they can just copy it. We have our process dump. So anytime there's new processes that we know we need to eventually create playbooks, we'll put them in there. It's kind of long list depending on departments. And then we have that progress tracker. And then finally, the reference guide. Now, what you'll notice is that there's some WIP in here, and that stands for work in progress, because just because somebody starts a playbook doesn't mean they're going to be able to complete it immediately. So if it's not completed yet, they just put WIP, and we know that they're working on it because it's a work in progress. And then inside of the departmental folders, we just put a little green emoji check that says, and that just means like, okay, this has been QC'd and it's good to go. This playbook is live and ready to go. Okay. So that is how we organize the drive. And this reference guide, I learned from a gentleman by the name of Clint Salter. He created the Dance Studio Association. And I thought this was just really, really smart. So we just have this reference guide that has the reference number that is on the playbook, when it was created, who it was created by, what department, what's the process name, the description, and then a link. So we literally have one document, the spreadsheet, that has every single playbook, and we can sort it by the reference. So you can sort it by HR, program director, instructor, finance. And then because your Google Drive has a search functionality, you can search. So maybe you're looking for the cleaning playbook. You just type in cleaning and it'll pop up in your drive. Okay. So the reference guide was really, really helpful in keeping everything organized. Okay. So that's the fifth step. Now, once your playbooks are done, it's like, okay, I've got all my processes. How do I now use them? And specifically in the onboarding of new hires. And we created these onboarding packets, and we just basically take the playbook links and plug them into the onboarding packet. And we build this out for however many days your onboarding is. Now, day one, are there certain things on day one that somebody on your team is going to have to do? Well, there are HR processes that you are going to, there's paperwork that you are going to need filled out, right? So there's certain things on day one, and depending on the role, what do you want your new program director to learn on day one? What do you want your new assistant instructor to learn on day one? So we built out these onboarding playbooks, and inside they have the playbook links. So when you come in at 1 o'clock, this is what you're supposed to be doing. You can click on it and it takes you directly to the playbook. Okay. Now, one thing I do want to touch on, I tried to make onboarding new hires super like cookie cutter, black and white, every single person. This is what you do day one. This is what you do day two. This is what you do day three. The problem with that is it doesn't meet people where they're at. You might hire a program director that has a ton of experience in membership sales, or you might hire a chief instructor that was a chief instructor at another school. Their learning curve isn't going to be as large as somebody that doesn't have that experience. So we custom build our onboarding, and also depending on the day that they start, that's going to determine what's going on in the school. So we take those playbook links and then we plug them into their onboarding packets. Okay. So there's some traps that you might fall into when you kind of go all in. And I think this trap happens like if you're having a retention issue, you just focus on retention and you don't focus on recruiting, right? Or you're having a recruiting issue, you just focus on recruiting and you don't focus on retention. You have to remember that sales cures all. And just because you're focusing on building out your playbooks doesn't mean you stop enrolling new students, okay? Another big trap is that you don't audit or QC the work. And now imagine having a playbook that other people are following and it's not the right process. So you got to make sure you QC it. You want to have accountability for those milestones. So if you say, if this is the date that these playbooks are supposed to be done, this is why having that weekly meeting with your team is so important, because you can touch on these. And that's why we love EOS and we love doing the level 10 meeting, because the level 10 meeting has a rocks section where we ask people, are you on track or off track with your rocks? And the rock would be the playbook, right? The other thing to remember is that we are humans. Just because something on the playbook says that it takes 15 minutes and it took somebody 25, that doesn't mean you should start yelling at them, because is that really the type of culture that you want to create? Okay. So one of the things that you absolutely can leverage, and ChatGPT wasn't out when we went all in on playbooks. So we were unable, when we initially launched those first 200 playbooks, we were unable to, we did that all by ourselves, like literally sitting there typing step by step by step. But this is the reason why I like using Loom, because inside of Loom, they have this transcript button right here. And if you click the transcript button and click copy, you can put that in ChatGPT. And we have a very specific prompt that we use. It's like a 6-step prompt. And using the prompt and the transcript, it'll completely build out the course documentation as well as the checklist for you. So literally the only thing you have to do is the content table at the top and then film the video. And then AI will handle everything else. I mean, guys, this literally cuts it, it cuts it in half in terms of, the time that is required to get this done. Okay. So what I want you to remember is this 10-80-10 principle, which I learned by Dan Martell. First 10% is kind of when you're getting a project off the ground, that's you getting buy-in, that's you explaining the context to your team. And then 80% should be handled by your team. And then the last 10% is that QC and audit. So for those of you that do have full-time team members to help you with this, you're basically putting in 20% and they're putting in 80%. And 80% done by someone else is 100% freaking awesome. Okay. One of my absolute favorite quotes. Okay. Will the presentation PDF be sent at the end of the meeting? It will. Ms. McClung, can you share that prompt? I do believe our Maya Elite clients have access to it in our Facebook group. But here's the reality. Okay. Here's the reality. The majority of you aren't going to do this. You're just not, because it's a lot of work. And I don't know why any business owner would ever think that running a business isn't supposed to be a lot of work. It is. I mean, it just is, right? But if you have teams, you will be able to not have to do the bulk of the work. Okay. But I think the main reason why a lot of school owners wouldn't do this is just because they just lack the accountability of somebody being on top of them of getting this done. All right. Challenge accepted. I love it. So I do have a pitch for you guys. And if you've ever been on my web, I've done maybe, I think this might be my 56th webinar that I've done. And I think maybe out of 56 of them, I pitched on 3 of them. But I know how important this process is. So I am launching a 4-week Playbook Method course to walk you through this entire process, hold you accountable. And I'm really excited to share this with you because this could literally, and I'm not being dramatic here, save your life. So you're going to get the Playbook course. We're going to do 4 live coaching calls on Zoom with Q&As. You're going to get all the plug and play Playbook templates. I'm giving you everything. Like, you're going to get the drive will be shared with you. And I have one specific for martial arts schools because I did it in Gracie Pack. The screenshots that you saw was our Grow Pro one. We'll have a Facebook group, so all questions can go in there. And then you're going to get lifetime access to all of the recordings and all of the materials. I've done courses in the past. I've done the 8-week marketing mastermind course a handful of times. It's been a while since I've done another course, and I'm really excited. It's going to start March 4th. So we're going to do Tuesdays at 2 p.m. If you can't show up live, it's not a big deal because you'll get all of the recordings instantly, but just 4 weeks. And it's just $497, guys. I mean, I could have charged thousands and thousands of dollars for this, but I want you to get this done because I know what it feels like to be held hostage in your school. And I'm only doing 40 people because I know you guys are going to have questions and I don't want to have to answer questions for more than 40 people. I want to share this with you. I think this is really, really impactful. So this woman, Jennifer, is a part of the 7-figure agency mastermind that I'm in. And I walked 7-figure agency through a similar course in the past, okay? And this is what she said. And I know it's a little long, but just stay with me for a second. Hi, Chris. I need to share something with you and just now feeling good enough to tell this story. In the year before I was diagnosed, she was diagnosed with cancer, I attended the 7FA intensive in Miami and your presentation on SOPs. We went home and immediately started implementing. I also had finally gotten with a great bookkeeping firm to work with our CPA and get all that off my plate. A year of tightening up our systems process, KPI, and tracking, and then I got the gut punch of this rare aggressive cancer with a poor prognosis. We had a family powwow, and I just handed the reins over to my oldest son, James, and stepped out to concentrate on healing. 10 months later, 0 cancer, a complete pathological response. My surgeon told me she did not think I would get this outcome because of my high-stress job when we first met. I told her that my son had taken over and was running the company and knocking it out of the park. She said, he probably saved your life. Well, Chris, he couldn't have taken over so seamlessly and successfully if we hadn't implemented your playbooks. I just needed to tell you that. Thank you for such an easy, straightforward process. In my case, it was life-saving. I mean, I get chills when I read this. And guys, this was just a couple of weeks ago, January 31st, that she sent this over. So I'm not trying to be dramatic in terms of like this did save somebody's life. The fact that they were able to just completely focus on healing themselves and didn't have to worry about the business at all because all of the processes were handled. And she had a team that could take care of this. So I'm really excited to go on this journey for those of you that would potentially be interested. There is the link. Like I say, guys, I don't pitch. If you've been on my webinars, it's pretty rare that I'm going to pitch anything, but I think this is something that all school owners, could really use some help with, could get some guidance, could use some accountability. And each week, you're going to have homework assignments. So what I don't want you to think is you're going to sign up for this course and you don't have to do any work. That's not how life works. But I'm going to give you the blueprint to get this done in an easier way, okay? So if you have any questions about it, let me know. I dropped the link in there. Since you record a single video for gym opening, for example, do you end up having to re-record it once you modify some of the steps? Yes, and that's why I said your playbooks are living, breathing documents. They are never a box you get to check off. They're constantly going to be needing to be updated as you update and you evolve, right? I mean, your business has to evolve, guys. This is off topic, but can you share with us the microphone, stand, and camera you use for your webinars? Yeah, I use a Blue Yeti microphone. The camera's not cheap. It's almost $2,000. So I don't think it's necessary that you guys do that. I would just use, I do have this other one. I'm not using this, but I think this HD 1080 Logitech, just a Logitech, it's on Amazon and you can get it for $100, works well. I'm huge into content creation. I'm teaching Zoom meetings. This is an investment for, building a personal brand, but I don't think it's necessary at all. I think a simple setup is all the Elgato stuff if you want to upgrade your setup. Yeah, I mean, I use Elgato, but it's not a necessity. Okay. Did you produce a course on use of AI for martial arts school owners? I've done a lot of trainings. You can go to the GrowProAgency.com/webinars, and there are some stuff on AI in there. I've done a lot of stuff for our Maya Elite family. I actually have a new lead magnet that's coming out called the AI Cheat Sheet. It's a free download, and I'm filming a podcast tomorrow about AI. I just got back from Miami meeting with the top agency owners, and these are agency owners that are doing multiple seven figures. And we kicked off the first 90 minutes about future-proofing your business and what it's going to look like in the next 2 to 3 years. I mean, I'll be honest with you, it was a little scary, hearing what everybody is just learning and seeing. And AI is here. It's not going anywhere. I do think that governmental regulations are ultimately going to have to step in to save businesses. But I mean, guys, there will be a time in our lifetime where you can have a robot in your house that does all of your cleaning. And get this, if your toilet gets plugged, it will be able to unplug your toilet. If something happens with your electric outlets, it can fix it, because you can go to ChatGPT right now and ask it if you're having, like home maintenance issues, and it will, help you kind of figure out what it is. These robots are going to be trained on how to fix it themselves. Like, I mean, nobody's safe. It's not just the white collars, it's the blue collars. Elon has talked about, $30,000 price point to have a robot. I truly believe you will eventually have a robot in your school that can do all the freaking cleaning for you. Like, that is what we are. That is where it is going. Sorry for the side tangent, but like AI is, I'm reading an AI book right now too. So it's just very, very like top of mind. Okay. Do you have a program on Facebook ads for martial arts schools on how to run them? So I've taught 8-week marketing mastermind courses that have done this, but the problem is that 3 months later, it's not relevant anymore because the platform changes. So you could purchase it, but it wouldn't be relevant. I love taking photos of things, asking GPT to help me fix it. Yeah, for sure. Is the course mostly about creation, or also about, it's all implementation, auditing, QC processes. So the landing page kind of breaks down what we're going to be doing each week. Okay. I was in the grocery store yesterday and a robot got in my way. Yeah, right. It's kind of nuts. Chris. Oh, the Four Seasons in Orlando, they just released, they now have robot massages. Like on a full, you lay down on a table and it's a robot arms that are massaging you. Like, and you can book that now, right? It's kind of crazy. Chris, massive shout out to the GrowPro team. Appreciate it. All right, guys. So yeah, once again, if you want to join me on the journey, we're starting in March. 40 spots, $497. Would love to see you. As always, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. We'll get the recording out. You guys will get access to the PDF, the keynote as well. And as always, I appreciate you. Hope everybody has a super happy Valentine's Day tomorrow. Don't forget to get your significant other, like, at least a card, right? And I hope everybody has a great day. We'll talk to you guys soon.